I don't know how well this whole live thing's going to turn out because I'm really not ultra prepared. I just wanted to kind of come on here and do a little test drive. But of late, I've been watching and reading a lot of stuff, kind of brushing up, if you will, about the Majestic 12. Everybody seems to be big into UFOs again of late, and I think a lot of it has to do with the new disclosure documentary that just got released on numerous platforms, predominantly on Amazon Prime and whatnot. But every seems like every couple of years or so, I don't want to call it the fringe audience, but the passive UFO buffs get reinvigorated. Kind of the news cycles do too, with each credible documentary that gets released. And this new one that just got released a couple weeks ago has got everyone in a buzz again. So, of course, for somebody like me that is interested and follows ufology and the things that go on within ufology, that means how do I want to put this? My feed, my algorithm sort of gets inundated with UFO stuff more so than it normally does. But now it seems like I'm getting an awful lot of Majestic 12 stuff. So if you don't know what Majestic 12 is, I kind of stitched a couple of videos that will give you the quick little explanation about it before we continue.
In December 1984, filmmaker Jamie Chandler received an anonymous envelope containing what would become one of the most controversial documents in UFO history, the Majestic 12 Papers, or MJ-12 for short. This 8-page document dated November 18, 1952, detailed a briefing for President-elect Dwight Eisenhower by Vice Admiral Roscoe Hillenkotter. It revealed the recovery of 2 crashed alien spacecrafts and the remains of their occupants. This discovery, the document claimed, was so significant that President Harry Truman had authorized the creation of a secret group known as Majestic 12 to study the wreckage and its implications for humanity. Majestic 12, if real, represented a covert initiative to address the greatest mystery of our time, the existence of extraterrestrial life. But was it authentic or an elaborate hoax? The debate continues.
And that happens to be the important sentence of the whole idea of Majestic 12, is we really don't know if the footage or the film stock or the camera footage that Jamie Chandler got in 1984 was in fact real or an elaborate hoax put together by somebody or him and somebody, but it has seemed to gain a life of its own. And the idea of Majestic 12 seems to come and go about every 10 years or so. So it's one of those things that never really goes away. But what is it for sure? We don't really know exactly what it is. We've heard the story like you just saw in that video, and it seems like right out of the X-Files, but this was, almost 10 years before the X-Files. So maybe it was sort of a indication of what was to come with the X-Files, a how do you want to say it, an inspiration for the X-Files, perhaps, or has there always been this sort of deep conspiracy mindset in our culture here, specifically in the United States, to where we eat things like that up. And I think really it kind of started more so in the 1950s, where we think that if Majestic 12 is real, that's where it all started. So our conspiratorial mind sort of took off from there. It got kind of enhanced in the 60s, sort of swelled down a little bit in the 70s, although we got Watergate and all of that kind of kept the conspiracy to the forefront. But as far as ufology and everything, it kind of dipped down a little bit, and then it sort of picked up again in the 80s, and it really exploded in the 90s, and then again in the aughts, it sort of dipped down again, and then over the past 15 years in the 10s and to today, specifically really right around 2016. You can kind of do that math, but I'm not saying it to be political. I'm just saying that's really kind of when the whole conspiracy thing really blew up again. And then it really exploded around 2020, aka COVID. So is that really sort of the deep, dark secret of our collective psyche in the United States, as we have this underlying conspiracy that we think things aren't what we're being told they are? Kind of like Majestic 12? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. So as far as Majestic 12 goes, do I think it's real? I don't know, because you hear all of these names like Vanderbeer Bush, and then since Trump took office in 2016, you started hearing his relatives' names getting floated around, being sort of the underplayers within Majestic 12 and all of that. And as for me, somebody that is a believer in UFOs, not everything, if you watch any of my podcasts or listen to any of my podcasts, you know that I lean more towards the skeptical side, but I'm not a skeptic because I've had a sighting that I cannot explain. But I think a lot of the stuff, specifically here in short form video form, is more of a how can I get somebody to watch my channel type of thing. They make up a lot of stuff. They forward a bunch of stuff. They say a lot of outlandish things. So I think I go by the actual percentage that people give, that about 95% of all UFO sightings have plausible explanations, are explainable, are misidentified, or flat out hoaxes. It's that 5% that interests me. And as far as Majestic 12 goes, like I said, it's kind of taken a new life of its own over the past, say, 5 years or so.
So the Majestic 12, I looked into that a little bit more. The Majestic 12 is a top-secret U.S. government committee formed in 1947 by President Harry Truman to investigate and manage everything related to extraterrestrial contact, especially after the Roswell incident. It was comprised of 12 members, top military, scientists, intelligence officers. And the way that they found out about this Majestic 12 group, supposedly, was in 1984, a roll of 35mm film was mysteriously mailed to a UFO researcher, Jamie Shindera. When developed, it revealed top-secret documents allegedly briefing President Eisenhower, details about the formation of MJ-12, mentions of alien bodies recovered, crash saucers, and cover-up operations.
Spooky.
You want to hear some of the supposed members of this Majestic 12?
Yes, please.
One of them is Vannevar Bush, a guy named Roscoe, who's the first CIA director, General Nathan Twining, Air Force, Dr. Donald Menzel, astronomer, possible NSA liaison, and then it says several high-level military and scientific personnel tied to the Manhattan Project.
Ooh.
Remind me, what's the Manhattan Project?
The bomb. Oppenheimer.
Oh.
Which would be why they showed up.
Yeah,
Dude,
interesting.
this
Wow.
is super crazy.
And And for those of you that actually watched the live version of this, I made a complete and utter snafu at the end of this clip where I muted the microphone and never turned it back on. That's why I said at the beginning it's a learning experience doing these live things. But as far as the video goes, that kind of set out the whole thing with Majestic 12. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Roscoe Hillenkoetter, who was the big name within Majestic 12, mysteriously died. The official explanation is that he jumped out of his hospital window to his death. Now, since then, there have been stories that he was found wandering out in the desert miles away from the hospital, just in his hospital gown, wherein they took him back to the hospital, and then mysteriously after that, he was found dead to apparently have jumped out of the window and committed suicide. What do I think? Well, honestly, I think there's a lot of that 5% that I mentioned earlier within Majestic 12. I think there's some part of our government, specifically within the Pentagon and the military, that if we do have captured alien spacecraft, that they're keeping it not necessarily from the public, but keeping it public because they're trying to gain an advantage over other countries. So I don't prescribe to the idea of the whole 50s and 60s. They don't want to tell us because it'll cause mass panic, because I don't think it will. And I've done podcasts about it before. So what do I think? I don't think it's as deep dark as there's a conspiracy around every window. But yeah, I do think if they do have things, which I kind of think they do, that, yeah, they're keeping it from publication, for lack of a better phrase, because they're trying to get all the advantages that they possibly can. So, as a whole, what do I think about Majestic 12? Well, let's just put it this way. Yes, I think there probably was or is a group of governmental officials that might be outside of our know-how that sort of control that information. And we've been getting hints and whispers about it over the past almost 10 years now. Seems to come and go about every 15 or 20 years. Do I think it's as conspiratorial as everyone is making it out to be? No, I don't think it's as deep, dark conspiracy as that. But it's like I said before, I think maybe we do have some technology that we have in our possession, like maybe other countries do too, and they're trying to gain an upper hand as far as advanced technology. That's as simple as I think it goes. But hey, maybe you have different thoughts about it. If you do, after you hit like, which I know you all will, leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Maybe you think Majestic 12 is real and still at full force to this day. And as usual, if you've listened to this podcast, you know I don't have a closer to this. So I'll simply close with, the truth is out there, Mr. Mulder.